Severe weather warnings across parts of southeastern Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. Heavy rainfall moving up the central coast. Tropical systems developing in both the Coral Sea and off Western Australia. That's what we're re-looking at for the next week. Right now, conditions across the eastern states are setting up for thunderstorm activity this afternoon and evening. Brisbane has been hot and humid all week. 38 degrees yesterday with that sticky air mass parked over southeast Queensland. That changes tonight when a southeasterly moves through. Compare that to what's happening down south. Tasmania saw -2 this morning. Frost across northern suburbs. The temperature contrast across the country is massive, and that driving some of the weather patterns we are about to see develop. Let us start with what's happening today across southeastern Queensland and the New South Wales North Coast, because that's where the immediate action is. A weak southeasterly change pushes through this afternoon, probably around 5 or 6 o'clock. That's a typical trigger for thunderstorms in southeast Queensland. But today, system is not particularly strong. We're not looking at the kind of powerful sea breeze you see in November or December with wind gusts pushing 60 kilometres per hour. This is much more subdued. What that means is thunderstorms will be isolated rather than widespread. The areas to watch are the Scenic Rim, the Lockyer Valley, the Granite Belt and the Darling Downs. If you in the Gold Coast hinterland, you might see activity as well. Northeastern New South Wales will cop it as that change sweeps through. The main threat is heavy rainfall. These storms will move very slowly because we've got variable winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Wind speeds between 5 to 10 knots only. So when a storm develops, it's not going to race off somewhere. It's going to sit there and dump rain. Damaging wind gusts are possible, but not the primary concern. Large hail is on the cards. We're re-looking at stones between 3 to 5 centimetres. Yesterday, northeastern New South Wales saw hailstones around 5 or 6 centimetres. Today, instability is slightly lower, so we probably match that. But the Scenic Rim has an outside chance of seeing some giant hailstones. That chance is minimal at best, but it's there. The convective available potential energy sits between 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. For late January, that's half decent. Not massive numbers, but enough to produce solid thunderstorm activity. Tomorrow, Sunday, conditions calm down across southeast Queensland. We'll see a return to more stable weather, a few showers here and there, maybe the odd thunderstorm moving inland as far as Warwick through the afternoon and evening. There's a bit of instability that increases the risk of thundery downpours tomorrow morning around the Brisbane area. Small hail accumulations are possible late morning into early afternoon. Keep that in mind if you've got plans. Monday brings calmer conditions, limited shower and thunderstorm activity, just possible coastal showers. Tuesday, similar. Wednesday, things pick up again as a trough sets itself up further inland. Thursday, Friday and Saturday next week look calmer under the influence of a high-pressure ridge building offshore into the Tasman Sea. So we're re-looking at a couple more storms today and tomorrow, then a few showers midweek, then settled conditions for the end of the week and potentially next weekend. Now, the New South Wales Central Coast and Hunter region. Heavy rainfall is setting itself up right now. There is a weak low pressure system situated offshore from the Central Coast, tracking northeast. Throughout today, heavy showers and thunderstorms stream into this part of the coastline. Falls between 40 to 80 millimetres expected, increasing to 120 millimetres in exposed coastal locations, Nelson Bay, Newcastle, as far north as Kempsey and Port Macquarie. The Barrington tops may exceed 100 millimetres. That is the kind of rainfall we're expecting as this low tracks northeast. The heaviest falls occur today and tomorrow, particularly around Foster and Port Macquarie. The flash flooding risk is minimal right now. Earlier in the week, some forecast models were showing crazy numbers, 500 or 600 millimetres. That is not happening. For that kind of rainfall, you'd need a very strong low pressure system. We don't have that. You'd be hard pushed to even detect where the low is based on satellite imagery. It is weak, messy and disorganised. Wind observations back that up. 25 knots gusting 35 at Sydney Airport. 22 knots at Montague Island Lighthouse north of Bega. Nothing special. This is not a significant low pressure system. Right, let's talk tropical systems. There are a couple of points of interest across northern Australia and out into the Coral Sea. The remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Koji sit around the Darwin area. Very heavy rainfall through Darwin and coastal locations around the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf throughout today. The monsoon trough remains weak across the Northern Territory and into the Kimberley region of Western Australia. Most of the monsoonal activity has departed from North Queensland. Rainfall reduces over the next couple of days across most areas. In fact, for many areas, rainfall completely clears out. That gives rivers time to drop and water levels to recede. Very good news considering the significant flooding ongoing in northwestern Queensland and the central coalfields and highlands. Tropical low 14U is spinning itself up quite nicely out in the Coral Sea. It's got a nice central dense overcast, that cluster of thunderstorms around the storm centre, monsoonal flow from the Solomon Sea around the Solomon Islands heading towards Vanuatu and New Caledonia is feeding this system. This system makes a U-turn, bypassing New Caledonia now, then heading towards Norfolk Island and eventually off towards New Zealand. No threat to either of those locations. New Caledonia may get cyclonic force winds early next week depending on development. But in terms of a Queensland threat, this system is not expected to approach Queensland in any meaningful capacity. It won come within about 1,500 kilometres of the Queensland coastline. That is good news. Queensland does not need another tropical cyclone right now. Looking ahead 5 or 6 days, we're re-expecting something to develop around the Cape York Peninsula. That is likely to move out into the Coral Sea where development occurs. We're likely to see a tropical low offshore from the north and far north Queensland coast. We're also watching the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Koji, now designated as tropical low 16U. This system moves out into the warm waters off Western Australia, then probably around next weekend, makes a U-turn back towards the West Australian coastline. Could be the Kimberley region, could be the Pilbara coastline, may even make it as far as Exmouth before that U-turn. We could be looking at a significant tropical cyclone landfall. Some forecast models are calling for Category 3 to 5. This is definitely a watch very closely situation for those in the Pilbara or Kimberley region. Let's start with the Coral Sea forecast, considering that the storm, likely to impact more people. As we push through this weekend, shower and thunderstorm activity picks up through Cape York Peninsula heading into next week. Significant rain accumulations expected on the western edge of Cape York around the Gulf of Carpentaria. Heavy showers and thunderstorms at times through Tuesday and Wednesday across much of Cape York. That where we expect the tropical low to begin development, either in the Gulf of Carpentaria or out into the Coral Sea, likely kicks up sometime around Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Isolated areas of very heavy rainfall through Cape York, potentially down into the Daintree rainforest and maybe the Cassowary coast as well. The future of this system remains relatively uncertain, heavily dependent on where the monsoon trough sets itself up. We're likely to see this system head out into the Coral Sea with a general southeasterly motion. If it does get out into the Coral Sea, and it's very likely to do so, it actually pulls away from the Queensland coastline as it intensifies. Queensland impacts expected to be pretty minimal if they occur at all. Things can change. That's why we monitor the situation. But right now, this is not a major concern for Queensland in any way, shape or form. Some of the more aggressive ensemble models show this storm making a bit of a turn towards Queensland, then turning away. Either way you cut it, it's not expected to make landfall as a tropical cyclone in the next week or so. We may see periods of heavy rainfall through the far north coastline of Queensland, but I'm uncertain on this right now considering this system pulls away from Queensland rather than drawing into the coastline. It's also not expected to be a massive system anymore. A couple of forecast runs ago, we were talking around that tropical cyclone Koji development size, which was huge. Right now, I am leaning towards a similar story to what Koji was doing as it developed. Very broad and messy system, but this one's slightly smaller and slightly more organised. Moving over towards Western Australia, this is very interesting. We could be talking about a significant system offshore from Western Australia. The reason is heavy rainfall developing around the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf. Obviously, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere coming in from the monsoon. This weekend is significant rainfall-wise through parts of the top end, particularly the northwest coast around Darwin. 7-day rainfall accumulations around the Darwin area. 200 to 500 millimetres, increasing closer to the coastline up towards 4, 5, 6, even 700 millimetres. Offshore, because of the stagnant nature of this low pressure system, massive rainfall accumulations become possible. The general trend with forecast models keeps those 1,500 millimetre plus accumulations far enough offshore as to not be a concern for the Northern Territory coastline. Most of this rainfall, regardless of how this system develops, is expected to be coastal based. Flooding is not expected to be a major problem. For those in the northwest, particularly between Darwin down to Coonawarra or Wyndham along the coastline, expect to be cut off for a prolonged period. Anywhere more than 200 or 300 millimetres in these areas causes damage to the road network, particularly unsealed roads. Significant rises to river levels expected, but access should be restored by late next week and early next weekend. If you live outside Darwin, but south of Darwin down towards Coonawarra and Wyndham, plan ahead. Prepare to be cut off for a prolonged period if you have dirt road access. Sealed roads shouldn't be a problem unless there's flooding, which is not expected to be a significant concern right now. The forecast for this system has changed a bit from yesterday. The European forecast model takes the system into the Kimberley region, then hugs the West Australian coastline through next week during its formative stages. Over the last couple of days, we've been seeing this system heading out into the Indian Ocean, then making a U-turn back towards Western Australia towards the end of next week. This system isn't expected to get ridiculously far from the West Australian coastline. We're not going to see it get close to Indonesia, but it is expected to remain far enough away that significant intensification remains possible. With the system's current forecast track, it kind of hugs the coastline before diving inland. That's a possibility right now, and definitely something that could throw nails into the forecast. Whether this system hugs the Kimberley coastline or the Pilbara coastline is crucial. If it does, we're talking about a much weaker and less dangerous tropical cyclone threat. But if this system takes a more west-southwesterly motion, then a sharp southeasterly motion into the Kimberley or Pilbara coastline by the end of next week, we could be talking about a very high-end severe tropical cyclone impact. Category 3 up towards Category 5. This is worth watching right now. My advice to people between Broome down to Exmouth, including Karratha, Onslow, Port Hedland, and other adjacent communities, particularly those within 100 kilometres of the coastline. Watch this space very closely. There's no immediate tropical cyclone threat right now, but one may develop in the next couple of days. We'll have more clarity on what forecast models are expecting. The more reliable forecast models suggest the system remains on that further offshore track, which means a much more significant tropical cyclone impact is possible. Details are still murky. We had a different run from the European model this morning that throws spanners into the works in terms of inconsistencies. But just for perspective, the ICON model shows a cyclone Vance type situation with Exmouth, a 928 to 930 hectopascal system. We'd be looking at winds well in excess of 250 kilometres per hour. That would flatten Exmouth. It gives you the idea that if something gets itself offshore, it won't have much standing in its way. A very significant tropical cyclone remains possible. So to summarise where we're at, thunderstorms and heavy rainfall across southeastern Queensland and northeastern New South Wales today. Main threat is slow-moving storms dumping heavy rain with large hail possible in the Scenic Rim and surrounding areas. Conditions calm down tomorrow and Monday, then pick up again midweek before settling for next weekend. Heavy rainfall continues up the New South Wales Central Coast and Hunter region today and tomorrow, but flash flooding risk is minimal. The low offshore is weak and disorganised. 2 tropical systems to watch, one developing in the Coral Sea around Tuesday or Wednesday next week. This one is expected to pull away from Queensland as it intensifies, so minimal impacts expected for the Queensland coastline. The other system, remnants of Koji, moving into waters off Western Australia with potential to make a U-turn back towards the coast late next week. This has the potential to become a severe tropical cyclone, possibly category 3 to 5. Those between Broome and Exmouth need to monitor this very closely over the coming days. Darwin and the top end cop heavy rainfall this weekend with 200 to 700 millimetres possible in coastal areas. If you re on dirt roads south of Darwin towards Kununurra and Wyndham, prepare to be cut off for several days. That is the situation as it stands. We'll have more clarity on both tropical systems over the next couple of days as forecast models settle down and we see how these systems actually develop. For now, monitor Bureau of Meteorology warnings, particularly if you are in affected areas. Stay safe, make sensible preparations based on your location, and don't panic. These are significant weather events worth paying attention to, but we've got time to prepare and monitor